Let's go ahead and get started here. First of all, I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining us today for the AI Town Hall. It's really great to see so many faces, and it's great to see such a nice combination of faculty, staff, and students here. And truly, we are hoping that this will be an opportunity for dialogue and an opportunity for our presenters to share their experiences and their research, and then for you to share your questions, your thoughts, your experiences, and just again to kind of keep the conversation going. My name is Laura White. I think I probably know most of you, but I'm the director of the library here on campus, and I also chair the ENMU AI Task Force. The task force started our work in the fall of 2003, and our primary purpose is basically to create opportunities for dialogue such as this one, and then ultimately our end goal is to just ensure that we are preparing our students to enter a workforce and society in a way that they're ready to be flexible and to adapt and to be good consumers of information, and just to prepare them for the environment of what lays beyond their time here at Eastern. And I really feel strongly that the folks that we've invited to be on the panel today have some great information to share with you, and they will share their experiences, their work, and their research, again, following which we hope that you'll engage in an interactive dialogue. I also just want to remind everyone that on the program we have information about each of the panelists, their bios, and their names, their bios, some additional information. And then on the bottom of the program, we do have the link to the ENMU AI research guide that's available online. And so the slides from the presenters today and the recorded presentation today, everything will be linked from that AI guide. So again, after today, if you're looking for more information or just kind of want to peruse what's available, we have that guide. The other piece of information that's currently available on the guide is the summary of the survey results. So you may remember that we did an AI survey on campus just to sort of gauge your perspectives and your thoughts and your concerns about AI. And one of the primary pieces of feedback we got from that survey was that the folks on our campus community want to hear from people that are working on other campuses, what their experiences are, what they're doing. And so this panel presentation really is a direct result of the feedback that we got from you all on that survey. But if you're interested in looking at the other survey results and the summary, again, I just encourage you to take a look at that online guide and to let us know if you have any questions or comments, and we appreciate your feedback. So the format for today, basically we will hear from each of our panel presenters. They're each going to speak for about 10 minutes apiece. And then following that, we're going to just open it up for questions, shared experiences, conversation. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our first speaker here, and I will let her introduce herself. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ji Yeon. I'm an assistant professor of Korean technical education at Eastern. Can you hear me? No? Yeah. I will use my teacher voice. Okay. So before I start, to be honest to you, I am a dime a dozen. So I'm not a specialist or expert in AI. I do not have any knowledge of algorithm and any other mechanism of AI, but I am very interested in how AI impact on teaching or your learning, the education. So last semester, I did a case study with my student. So the case study is very simple. So I allowed my student to use AI for their assignment, discussion and weekly written assignments. So the case study starts from this one. Oh, yep. my question is, will AI take over from human teachers and instructors? How do you think about that? Can they take over teachers and instructors?
No.
No. No. Some of them, yes, some of them, no. So my 4-year-old daughter, she is using AI tutor. But I have to be there, right beside of her, and teach everything, instruct everything. So that's the question of the case study. So I created some kind of a weekly report, AI use a weekly report. So if my student use AI tools, any of AI tools, make drawing or AI content generators, so if they use something, they have to submit their report, weekly report. So I have to ask, which phase did you use? Preparation, or written, or reviewing? So I have collected their data. So all of them using the preparations. So they ask the question, what the instructor means. And then they help from the AI content generator. So they using the written things, and also little bit lower percent of reviewing things. So, and then, so I also ask, what kind of AI tools did you use? Definitely ChatGPT. So 75% of my students using ChatGPT and Grammarly Go and Monica and the other things. So I also asked them to submit a AI detect program tools. So yeah, I'm so sorry I have to share that one, but so my students talking about the satisfaction of the AI usage. So the best thing they recognize is accessibility. They can use anytime and anywhere, any contents. That's the best thing. And then the other thing is reduce academic stress. That's the thing. So sometimes you didn't know what the instructor saying about that. But you can ask AI. Oh, okay, I got it. So there is some guideline. I can develop my statement. And then the other thing is efficient time management. So AI provides quick answers, and then they read it and they categorize it and then organize their contents for their written assignment. But there is some kind of challenges or dissatisfaction of the AI usage. So the least thing is comprehensive performance tracking. So when you run the AI things, that's done. They never look it back up. And then the other thing is, so AI is not the human things. So there is no human interaction. So if I ask something, if AI answer the wrong answer, that's all. That's all. So one evening, my husband was sitting down and sitting on his office and then doing something about this. So I asked him, so what are you doing now? And he answered me, I am evaluating AI answers, but how much human-like? Is it correct or not? So I was thinking my husband biased some kind of answers from AI things. Yeah, probably he might wrong. He might be wrong, or he might be correct, or everybody has different thoughts. So there might be impact on that. So from the case study, we were discussion about the things. So how students use the AI things, AI content generated things in their assignment or their learning. So they said just assignment completion. So they are turning your assignment, turning the assignment, that's all. They never check, they never review that one. Or some of them using the research skills. If AI answered something, they make a probing questions. So what is that and how is that? But the secret thing of the case study participants, they are teachers and instructors. So we discuss lots of things on how we can embed or how we can use strategy for effective ways. So they conclude that the assignment completion is not the proper thing. So we have to develop their research skills. How they, I don't want to say, but train AI, train content generator things. And then the other thing I want to share with you, so it's my passion. Who do you trust? Sometimes AI generator, content generator provide the wrong answers. So, yes, so how we can trust that one? And also, one of my students shared with me, so in her AI detect content report, so she used a Zero GPT, and then she was saying about that, I can share. It is surprising that the highlighted text is suspected to be AI generated when they were written by me. So it was flipped. When she was writing something, there is AI content. But the AI created generate things, so there is a human writing things. So if your student or if you have a kind of issue, so who do you trust? Yeah, I know, definitely my student. I have to definitely trust my student, but sometimes there is some kind of academic integrity or things. Yeah, let me share my presentation and then so I can conclude my presentation. So I think, I hope it won't. AI will not take my position. And then here's my weekly report, and then there's some kind of a satisfaction report, and then some comments, how they use preparation and written or reviewing things. So I can share that result. So here's the one. So most of them using the preparation, asking questions about the AI things. What the instructor means about that? What is the assignment means about that? And then written things and reviewing things. And here is a result. So the highest one is accessibility, and then effective time management, and also reduce academic stress. But least thing is there is no tracking thing, improvement tracking, and also the human interaction. So this is the thing. So for the excellence in teaching and learning, we have to think about assignment completion or the research skill development, and then who do you trust that I told you, and then creativity and critical thinking skills. How we can develop your critical thinking skills and creativity. Ask why and how to AI. So that is the example. The highlighted one, that was my student, was written. But Zero GPT detected that is a AI generated content things. So I also have a discussion question with my students. So please provide the example of project-based learning with AI. So one of my brilliant students, she is a culinary arts teacher. Yeah, she asked her student develop a dining menu for dinner and then cooking. And then evaluate with the peers how they are harmonious or combination of that one. So our conclusion is, the case study conclusion is use AI, but add some practical things to develop your critical thinking and creativity. That's the thing what I did in the last fall. And thank you for listening.
Can y'all hear me okay? Hey, how many of you use AI? How many of you read the terms of service before you used AI? going to help us work toward a privacy literacy for artificial intelligence today. I'm going to try to say it in 10 minutes. So I'm going to share more about my presentation roadmap. I'm going to share a little bit more about myself, my project, the Digital Rhetorical Privacy Collective. Not good with acronyms. Introduce the Digital Rhetorical Privacy Framework, theoretical framework, and demonstrate application of that framework, or their contours when we move into the theory, to Adobe Firefly Generative AI. Anybody use Adobe Firefly? Okay, cool. Get ready to ask questions. Work towards a privacy literacy, or literacies is probably more accurate, and then an invitation to collaborate. So I asked that question about terms of service because terms of service documents are the most influential genre in the world. And we're just not reading them, all right? I'm not the first person to say that, I promise. So who am I? I'm an assistant professor of English, so my discipline is English, at TAMUC, or A&M Commerce, in Dallas. My field is rhetoric and composition, and my specialization is digital rhetorics. I study data privacy and digital surveillance of emerging technologies, biometrics, artificial intelligence, and I'm the founder of the Digital Rhetorical Privacy Collective. So what is digital rhetorical privacy then? It's a state of being where a user is confident their digital data is free from unauthorized observances by nefarious computer technologies and other users. Sit with that for a second. There's a couple of things that probably stick out to you. So first of all, what's the definition of privacy? Defining privacy is difficult because people understand what it is, but they have different ideas about what constitutes it. S.D. Beck and Les Hutchinson Campos, they say that one of the problems with defining privacy, especially within legal reform, is the utter disharmony in views about the many distinctions of discretion due to varying subject positions and life experiences regarding privacy. In addition, look back to the definition. We're thinking about privacy, but also nefarious. Okay, so if we are looking at nefarious, that means looking at the data that is collected, but also how it's used. So this approach accounts for cultural aspects of the privacy surveillance continuum to underscore oppressive social, economic, political infrastructures. So it's a multi-pronged approach. There are nine elements or contours you can use for this type of analysis of terms of service documents, or any document, but it's primarily used for terms of service documents like privacy policies. We can look to the original 6, that is language, temporality, and transparency. Those are lower order things that I encourage instructors to bring into the classroom, in the first year composition classroom, the first year classroom for sure. And then perhaps in your upper level classrooms, you can think about 4, 5, and 6 upper level things like data usage, digital surveillance, and meaningful access. Not just having the technology, but having the literacy to use it. Finally, over time, those were the first 6. And then over time, over the last 3 years, scholars in my field have added to this framework to include explicitly the design of a privacy policy, the interlocking nature of privacy policies, so interlocking consent. What happens when the data that you make on that Adobe Firefly AI goes to a third party, right? Finally, data usage for training AI, okay? What happens when the data that you create or generate using Adobe Firefly is used to train other AI, all right? How do we talk to our students about that? That's an important question. So I'm going to walk through one lower order thing, specifically temporality, really quickly, and then one higher order thing, design, and then leave you with 2 ideas to move forward, okay? So by temporality, I'm referring to the timing of the document. And I'm reporting stuff that I'm reporting on a study I did on Adobe AI privacy policies with a colleague that will be out in the summer. But the rapid shifts in technologies are reflected not only in the tools themselves, right? ChatGPT 3, ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 5, right? But also in the policies that govern them. And this is especially true for Gen AI technologies, right? So at the top of the guidelines and additional terms for Adobe Firefly, we noted that they were updated on September 8th and then again on October 6th. what happened in this month to prompt this update. When policy updates occurring within a month, we can see then that these rapid changes in AI technologies mean that our data is being used in different ways as well. So here are some key considerations for temporality. When was the policy published and updated? How are users in regards to data storage? I messed up there. There's a typo, first one. How is data stored and used, and how does that impact the product? What technological advancements or legislative changes have occurred in society that relate to or supersede the policy? Specifically of interest to us should be our spatial orientation to data collection. What happens when data is collected in a state where the data collection laws are different, let alone a country? And we can talk about how EU countries protect their citizens much better than America. Okay, question. So what changed within a month to nullify the beta version terms, and how does this impact users? So one of our findings in this study was that we moved from the beta version to the full product. I'm going to try to move a little bit faster because I'm anxious, but am I good on time? I don't know. Okay. Oh, great. No, I'm not good on time, everybody. Okay. So a couple of things for design. I'm just going to wing it instead of reading my findings. The dialog boxes are specifically designed to make you want to agree to the terms of service. They're breeding surveillance apathy, collective surveillance apathy. They don't care about my data or your data or these people's data, but together in an aggregate, we are very valuable. All right? And so they want you to agree, and they're designing our terms of service interfaces to prompt you to agree. Privacy policies are really readable. They really, really are. We just aren't reading them. So here's a question for design. What design choices help or hinder the use of for users who seek to understand the complexity of a privacy policy? How many hyperlinks do you have to click through in order to understand how your data might be used? It's a constellation. So this is what I want to leave you with. Instructors, these are the things you should be talking to your students about. Interlocking consent. How do the technologies that they consent to use interlock with other terms of service documents and other legislation? How might data usage by a data collector or third party without consent perpetuate inequality or economic disparity? And is data transferred across imagined geographic borders where laws governing consent differ? Users of technology in California are governed differently than users of technology in New Mexico and where I live in Texas. And we aren't always thinking about that when we ask our students to use technologies that generate digital data. So how does the Adobe TO's terms of service interlock with other policies, legislation, and practices, including third parties? One thing that we investigated is that there's a tab on Adobe that says law enforcement. And so they have a direct relationship with law enforcement. That's cool that they have that, I guess, but what does it say that they have that? I think we need to think about that. Data usage for training AI. How is data used for training AI explained in the terms of service? And how do we talk to our students about it? If you're an Adobe campus and your student goes to school here and then they leave and they lose access to their university email account, they lose access to all of the things they created in Adobe under that account. And then that Adobe is going to use those things to train their AI and make more money, and that's a problem. So how is data generated by our students in our classrooms being used to train AI? So what we need to focus on is privacy literacies, right? This is a term that encompasses the functional, technical, rhetorical literacies needed to operate in a culture that has terms of service documents as the most influential genre in the world. This approach is a synthesized approach. I'm not the first person to say privacy literacies. Just to kind of bring it back to earlier, a lot of this work is coming out of Europe and Australia. And use the DRP, Digital Rhetorical Privacy Multi-Pronged Framework, to analyze the terms of service documents before you use the technology. And I'll end with this. Thank you for letting me have an extra minute or two. Collaborate with us. The DRPC, Digital Rhetorical Privacy Collective, is a collective. It's a coalition. We're working to raise awareness and amplify these issues across disciplines. Visit drpcollective.com and fill out a form. Check out some of the stuff we have there, and then reach out at drpcollective@gmail.com if you want to learn more. This is an image of some of the great stuff that we've been doing. We had a reproductive and medical technology in that in the age of AI crisis panel. We've been focusing on, of course, theory stuff like Foucault. We had a whole week-long event in January. We have a graduate student, which is really cool to have a funded graduate student up there on the left, up in the middle. That's Michelle. Yeah. So thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share some perspectives on AI with you this afternoon and to be a part of this esteemed panel. My name is Laura Hall, and I am the Division Head for Resources, Archives, and Discovery at the Health Sciences Library at the University of New Mexico. And I think that there's some library folks in the back, so I'm just going to wave to my fellow New Mexico academic librarians. In January of 2023, my library, and probably academic libraries broadly, received some certain kinds of questions. And they went something like, I have a citation, but I can't find the article for the citation. We also received interlibrary loan requests for what were articles that did not exist. The citations looked convincing, and they were, however, the creative output of what was ChatGPT, the free version, and they could also be called hallucinations. We know now that it's been out for a while, the free version of ChatGPT, but it's not designed to search the literature. The tool itself does not have access to library databases. It has no real-time information in it. But as new users, they were exploring, looking for ways in which to use the tool, looking for topics that were of interest to them. And they prompted and pushed the tool beyond its limits, which is how we ended up with these false citations. However, if we stopped at that point and stopped our inquiry into the capability of ChatGPT or other types of AI technologies, as an academic library, we would be only looking at it from a very limited perspective. Dismissing the tool, that it was unreliable. We would then be missing out on what would be a potential positive inquiry into the potential of the tool of AI technology and what is likely to be a true transformation in information retrieval. And I will point out, information retrieval is at the heart of every academic library. To understand how this is affecting health sciences literature, if you were to do a PubMed search today, there would be 980 results about generative AI. 850 of those were published in the last year, which represents a 639% increase in scholarly output about generative AI. And I believe that if you were to do this with other types of library databases, you would come up with some similar types of results. We see this proliferation in newspapers and popular magazines and blogs, in addition to the scholarly works, which leaves us with the profound question of how do we keep up? Ithaca SR has just released a generative AI product landscape report and tracker, which there are approximately 114 products highlighted. Each of these are designed to do something different. Different types of tasks can be used in different course work associated with higher ed. And I truly recommend that you go check it out. It's a pretty cool tracker. It actually will take you to a Google Doc, so you can just scroll down and see all the ways in which you can use AI technology and all the ways in which your students may be using AI technology. These generative AI tools can help us write, they can help us copy, edit, create music, images. They can help us analyze a data set. Almost every facet of our jobs and in every industry, from arts to business to sciences, is being touched by this technology. At the health sciences, AI tools can outperform a human in reading EKGs. They can outperform on mammograms. This really plays to the strength of AI technology to find patterns and or anomalies. Last year, there was a couple of studies conducted on the ability of ChatGPT to take the United States medical licensing examination, also called USMLE. The USMLE is taken in 3 steps. It is a progressive kind of a step process to assess the progressive knowledge of med students as they are going from being learners to practicing medicine. And these studies found that ChatGPT performed at or near the threshold for passing on all 3 steps without any specialized training or reinforcement. Another study conducted last year evaluated physician responses to patient questions and compared that to a chatbot's response. Overwhelmingly, patients preferred the chatbot response for completeness of information and perceived empathy. These studies point to great potential in these tools in the education process as well as in practice. As faculty, students, and administrators, there is an absolute imperative that we become knowledgeable, that we're able to critically appraise these tools, use them appropriately and ethically. As faculty, it's a tall order, and that we must be able to provide guidance on when and how these tools should be used. And to not do so is to not prepare our students. At the Health Sciences Library and Informatics Center, my work has involved multiple approaches towards this goal of AI literacy. Last summer, I began by putting together trainings for my department, mostly focused on the faculty and staff within the library, on just different AI tools. Those trainings have now expanded to the UNM Health Sciences Library, or excuse me, the Health Sciences Center, which consists of the library, 4 colleges, and the teaching hospitals associated with the center. These trainings have consisted of prompt engineering, searching the literature using tools like Research Rabbit or Consensus, Cite AI, the ethical use of, and then the training to gain a better understanding of the inherent biases that are in these AI tools. I will say that that is usually where the conversation, the concerns with health sciences faculty ends up being, is in privacy, as in the equitable access to these tools, as well as the equity of the information that's coming out of them. I've set up monthly community practice sessions. These are a bit more casual. They're meant to be explorations of how these tools can be used, successes and failures in using them. And in fact, today we are having one of those community practice sessions. 2 of my colleagues are filling in for me today, and they are presenting on using ChatGPT to write code to help clean up a data set that they're using for a research project. I also proposed and got funding to set up a sandbox in my library. So it's for the library faculty and staff to have access to ChatGPT 4, which is that pro account. It's completely voluntary. They could sign up if they want it, and the only requirement was that they explore the capabilities of it and in essence be curious. For the sandbox, I also assembled a research team to evaluate the utility of ChatGPT in an academic library. The study is set up with a pre- and post-test. The pre-test was administered in the November-December timeframe, and at the time, that was at that time that we were setting up their accounts, so it was in the first week or so of them having their accounts that they took the pre-test. Most of the participants rated themselves as novice or advanced beginners. And then the top 3 goals for using ChatGPT 4 was to learn a new skill, to test the product, and to introduce efficiencies in their workflow. The post-test will be released at 6 months, so not until about the end of April, May time period. And I suspect that we will have a greater variation in the post-test, as I have at least observed some greater variability of the use and the types of tasks that people have been, my fellow colleagues have been asking of ChatGPT. Finally, the University of New Mexico is also participating in an Ithaca SR study, making AI generative for higher ed. Todd Quinn, my colleague from the University Libraries, and I are co-PIs for this grant. The study aims to formulate strategies, policies, and programs to ensure that universities are best harnessing AI technologies. The study is a collaborative effort with 19 other universities across North America. Each of these 20 sites is running what is a parallel study, so we are each interviewing about 20 instructors or scholars at our universities, asking them questions about how this has affected their teaching activities, learning, to how it might have affected their research. And then we will be assembling all of that raw data together across the 20 sites into what would be a final report that will be published in October 2025. And then I will just close my comments by saying that I hope to continue to build on these efforts, continue that dialogue, contribute towards and help shape the collective understanding of AI on my campus and then within the broader community. And I thank you for your time today.
Okay, hello. My name is Suzanne Tapp. I'm from Texas Tech University. Today I'm going to share my experience in leading the AI Resources and Guidelines Committee. So about a year and a half ago, maybe like you, I started hearing something about AI, and I had a little time over Christmas break, believe it or not, to do some reading. And I thought, oh my goodness, this could change higher education. So when I got back to campus in the spring semester, I formed this committee and we got started thinking about what this might mean to us at Texas Tech and more broadly in higher education. So I want to share with you our syllabi statements and then a framework that I created to help my students. So the AI Resources and Guidelines Committee came up with a framework that is not necessarily unique to Texas Tech. I have seen many other institutions do something similar. What we said to our faculty colleagues was, here are 4 recommended syllabi statements. Choose one that matches your learning goals. So match the statement to your goals for your class, and I just want to walk through those quickly. The first one is basically use AI. It's encouraged, it's allowed in this course. So this is someone who their goals match the use of AI, their students have free reign, they are welcome to use it. However, students are responsible for the content. They are still responsible for whatever is produced, for however it is used. They are simply allowed to use AI as a resource. Okay? The next possibility would be use AI, but you have to have disclosure and citation. So in this scenario, a faculty member might require his or her students to have some kind of disclosure on their work that says, I used AI for about 30% of this assignment. I used AI for about 50%. Or some kind of citation. All of our citation guides now, APA, MLA, etc., have a style that allows them, a format that allows us to cite AI. So this is a possibility. The next possibility would be for a faculty member to say, you can use AI, but only for this assignment. It matches the goals of this particular assignment, not for another. So I'll tell you more about that in class. I'll tell you which assignments you are welcome to use AI with. And then the last one, you can't use AI in my class. To this faculty member, I say, good luck. It is really hard to police this. I'm sure that my faculty colleagues in the room will nod their heads in agreement. How do we know that our students do not use AI? We do not. I will be so bold as to go out on a limb and to say AI detectors do not work. I do not trust their validity. Frankly, I think they are biased. There's research to suggest that AI detectors more often will identify a non-native speaker as someone who used AI when in fact that non-native speaker did not. So at this point in time, they are not trustworthy. As my colleague showed right here, AI detectors will often say, oh, this was human generated when it was not, or this is AI generated when it was not. So we don't recommend those. So it is certainly possible to work with your students to say, here's why AI is not a good fit. Here's why I need you to not use AI as a tool in this class. For this seminal learning, for this foundational learning, I need you to think critically and not use it. We can talk to our students about our purpose and help them understand why it's not the right fit. So those are the 4 statements that we suggest that our faculty use. And perhaps this will be something that you too find helpful. Then I had the opportunity to go to a conference last September at the University of Central Florida. University of Central Florida is a really interesting school. They've made it a part of their mission statement to equip all students and make them familiar with AI. It's a huge part of their strategic initiative. I would say they're one of the leaders right now, and plus they're close to a beach. So I went to a conference there, and I may have been sitting with my colleague, Micah Logan, from Western Kentucky University, perhaps on a beach with a very large frozen drink in our hands, saying, how in the world will we help our students learn how to use AI? And as we're at the beach with the frozen daiquiri maybe in our hands, we looked out and there was a pier next to us on the beach. So we started, as academics do, playing with acronyms. And we came up with this idea of permission, integrity, empowerment, and reflection. So what I want to do is walk through this with you and show you some questions that faculty might ask themselves and students might ask themselves. Peer is easy to remember. Think about that image of a beach. Maybe think about the image of the daiquiri if it works for you. And I'll share all of these slides, so we'll share these questions with you. So when I think about permission, I'm thinking about the idea of transparency. Faculty members, I'm thinking about what are you telling your students about your beliefs about AI? What are you telling them about how they can use it in the class? And then students, what do you know? What do you understand about how you are able to use AI? So questions that faculty members might ask, just a few of these that I'll mention a few that I think are particularly relevant or interesting. Maybe it's the idea of the level of AI contribution that is allowed, right, in your class. Maybe you only want students to use AI for brainstorming, but you don't want them to quote something that they find. That's a reasonable use. Maybe your permission changes at different points in your assignment. For example, as you scaffold a writing assignment, maybe at the beginning when a student is brainstorming, bring it on, let's use AI. But as we increase along the writing process, maybe we don't want our students to use AI, so it might change. Maybe you'd like for your students to do what we call washing with AI. Maybe I want them to use 2 tools. So I'll say throw it into ChatGPT, see what you get. When you are happy with that content, then why don't you throw it into Claude and wash it, and let's see if it becomes more human sounding. This is a great thing to do, to use those tools together. So I'm going to disclose this to my students and help them understand the permission that I give to them to use AI in my class. For students, what does this look like? For students, you should be asking yourselves, what is my instructor's policy? You really want to understand that because it could change from class to class. In your Chemistry 101 class, your faculty member may say, it's not relevant to our class at this time. I need you to learn some foundation elements. But perhaps in a junior level class that's more focused on creativity and critical thinking, we might use AI. It's your responsibility, student, to understand what your instructor's preference is. So if you don't know, ask. Similarly, you should be asking about citation styles. You should be asking questions, if you have them, about the use of AI in relation to a particular assignment. Don't make assumptions. Moving along that acronym now, we come to I, which is integrity. And my colleagues on the panel here, I think, have all mentioned integrity as being something that we should be and are concerned about. So in this context, we always want to focus on our and our students' intellectual contributions. How are we encouraging students to start with their own work and thoughts and expand on that with AI? We want to remind students that AI is a tool, not a substitute, not an equal contributor. And certainly we want to make students aware of ethical problems that surround AI. So some questions for faculty that have already even been raised, I think, by my colleagues on the panel, such as, are your students aware of potential privacy compromises when using AI? Charles certainly addressed this. Could AI requirements invite equity issues among your students? The first time that I incorporated AI into my classes, I quickly found that some of my students were more technology savvy than others, right? I know that you have this experience. And some of my students, perhaps my non-traditional students, coming back to the classroom had some real fears about AI and about using it. So there were some disparities among my students' comfort levels and among their abilities. So I want to make sure that the field is leveled when I ask students to use AI. One way that I do this is I always promote free tools. I never ask students or recommend that students use a paid tool. There are enough options right now that we don't have to. Okay. And then how do you help your students avoid long-term effects on their abilities? This is a big philosophical question, right? As Jihoon mentioned, do we have students who are compromising their creative abilities or compromising their critical thinking abilities? So how am I going to combat that? For students, when you think about integrity issues, maybe some questions that you ask yourself as you begin using AI are things like this. How do you start brainstorming? Right? What resources are you going to use? We really want our students to remember that AI is not neutral. AI has biases. Right? This is a very important part of their understanding. So what safeguard, student, do you have in place to verify the information that is generated by AI? And then what generative AI, how does the generative AI tool that you are using gather its data? We certainly want our students to know this. Where is this information coming from? Is it a Western perspective? Is it a perspective that biases someone's identity, racial identity, sexual identity, etc., against them? We need to know where and how this information is gathered. Moving on through that framework, the next part of the framework is the idea of empowerment. So as I said, some students do have some fears or concerns about using AI. Can we help them to embrace AI as a tool, particularly as we think about preparing our students for careers? So faculty members, maybe this is on you and how you might be using AI in your daily work or in your research. Is there a way that you could share this with students and you could model for your students? This is a growth mindset, right? To say, I'm working on this too. I'm learning something new too. This is difficult for me too. And we model to our students, oh, I'm trying something different. You can too, right? One of the first things that I did, I'll confess to you, when I began using AI was to plan my semester. So I said, hey, ChatGPT, how would you teach this? What would you do in a 13-week semester, and how would you organize these topics? Did I use exactly what it created? No. But it was a great start for me. And that's what I said to my students was, hey, this really helped me in my efficiency. Honestly, I was a little bit stuck and I didn't know what to do. So here's what I asked ChatGPT, here's what I got. That is a great way to model to students that willingness to try something. All right, we'll keep going. Questions for students. Are you using AI as a study tool? This might be an easy way to dip your toe into the water. For example, if you are learning a second language, you could use ChatGPT to be helping you practice that language. It's a great conversation partner, believe it or not. How can AI augment, not produce, but augment your work on an assignment? We want you to think about this. We want you to try it. And then last on that framework, the idea of reflection. So reflection here is the idea that our students and us need to be intentionally reflective about AI and about the way that they use it and assess it. So faculty members, you should be reflecting on AI and how your students are using it, right? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? And what would you do differently the next time that you teach your students? So take some notes. We don't want to have pedagogical amnesia, right? So that we do it the same way the next semester. You reflect on how it's going and what you'd like to change as well. And then students. We really want to encourage students to reflect on their use of AI. So maybe this is even worked into an assignment. Maybe at the end of an assignment, you can ask your students, how did you utilize AI in this assignment? What did you find useful or not about working with AI? What hindered you in using AI? Did you find any missing information? As Laura said, did you find a citation that didn't exist? Or did you find a page number that was wrong in a particular citation? There can be little details. What did you notice? What would you do differently next time? So I hope that this peer model gives you some ideas for how you might incorporate AI into your classroom, and you and your students work together to think about issues of permission, integrity, empowerment, and reflection. Thank you.
All right, thank you to our panelists for speaking and sharing your experiences. At this point, I would like to open it up to the audience. If you would like to share your experience, if you have an experience with AI that you would like to share, no judgment here in this audience. So any experience that you would like to share, or if you have questions that you would like to ask, either a question for a specific panelist, or if you just have a general question for consideration, at this point we'd like to hear from you. So who has a question or an experience in the back? And if you want to stand and maybe just share who you are and then ask your question, that would be great. Thank you. Or share your experience.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I'm community disorders. A question for the Texas Tech representative. You mentioned two things. One was verifying that you're not using, in a responsible manner, that you verify that you're not violating other people's information that you're working, other people's rights. How do you do that? Like, as a professional, I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to do that. How do you know that the information that you're finding isn't somebody else's words?
Yeah, this is like Research 101, and it is tricky and confusing. So what I'm asking my students to do is to go back and see if they can find primary source attribution. So I want my students to be able to see if they read that, if they read a neuromyth such as you are right and left-brained. This is a myth, right? We are not right and left brained. We are multimodal. So I want my students to then trace that back. And if ChatGPT says, students are right and left brained, a right brain student might think blah, 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 a left brain student might think this. That's a bold claim. So I might challenge my students. How do you know that's true? Can you go back and find the primary source that says that did that research? So I'm going to ask them to backstep. Does that make sense? I do not think this is easy, Rachel. Also, depends on the purpose of my class. Honestly, I teach a first-year seminar, and I have 150 students per section. I teach 3 sections each fall. I'm probably not going to give an assignment that requires significant citation because I'm not going to check them because I don't have that much time in my day. So I'm instead probably going to assign something that's more personal reflection and narrative. So what is the purpose? And then do I have the time to work with my students to help them learn how to assess the credibility? Your second question. What's the second question? What was the second question? Thank you. AI washing. Okay. So
I forgot to.
One thing that generative AI tools are pretty good at is replicating voice. So when I start with my students and I want to break down some barriers and say, let's learn a little bit about how AI works, we'll take something really simple, like we'll say, let's describe West Texas. It's dusty, there's no water, there's a lot of red and black. We'll throw out some things and say, now write a song about West Texas in Taylor Swift's voice. Okay? ChatGPT can do this in a second. And we'll progress and play, then write it like a 7th grade boy. And we'll get a whole lot of it's pretty funny. So ChatGPT can mimic voice. Many generative AIs can. This is a good thing. You may have noticed if you have seen a student misrepresent work as their own, that is an AI, like a ChatGPT, and they just take it and submit it, it has a feel, doesn't it? It might say firstly, and use use adverbs in a strange way and a voice that doesn't sound like a first-year student. Do you notice that I'm looking at my English colleague right here? Because
specific phrases.
Yes, there are specific phrases that are repeated over and over. Because what is generative AI? It's a predictor. It's a predictor of human speech. So to help students come up with something that sounds more like them, one thing that I can do is I can say, use ChatGPT, use prompts until you get something that you're satisfied with, copy that then, and take it and put it into Claude, and ask Claude to write it as if Claude is a first-year college student.
So is Claude another software?
Yes,
Yeah.
Claude is a competitor, if you will, to ChatGPT. That's really a simplification. Different skills, but yes. So that's one thing I can do. Here's a better idea. Let's ask students to use prompts, narrow down until they get the output that they want, and then let's say, hey students, close AI, and now I want you to circle, highlight, identify in some way things that don't sound like you. How would you do it differently? I like that assignment way better. I like the other one too of washing a piece of information with another AI generator as a skill for my students to help them quickly produce something that sounds good. But for their critical thinking, I would rather see them identify it. So there's 2 routes. I just took a lot of microphone time, and someone else probably has something way better to say.
I can add to that you can actually ask ChatGPT to write it in your style.
Yeah.
if you have been working with it for a while. So, I mean, you have that conversational aspect of what is the chatbot, in which you may have entered some of your original writing. If it spits out these is sort of overly lots of words is sort of its style. You can also say, write it neutral, write it like me. You can do all kinds of things to like pull it into what is more of a human style.
Other question? Yes.
Just an interesting angle I've been able to use AI on that I'd like to hear your opinions on is, or at least from my experience, based on the way a lot of those AI tools, especially ChatGPT, collect data, if you ask it an opinion on something, it generally gives you what it thinks the general consensus on something is. So a way I've been able to use it is recently I wrote a paper about Russia and what it's been doing in the Ukrainian war and worldwide for the past 20 or 30 years. And I asked ChatGPT and a few other AI softwares that I randomly found how it felt about that, or basically asking what is Russia doing and why is Russia doing the things it's doing. And a lot of what you find is, depending on how you phrase it, it'll give you an entirely different perspective. Like I asked, why is Russia invading Ukraine? And it gave me an entire thing that sounded straight out of Russian propaganda, talking about how it's reclaiming old Russian heritage and the Ukrainians took it back at some point. But then I asked, is what Russia is doing to Ukraine good? And then it gave me an entirely opposite thing, talking about how what Russia's doing is invasion, and gave me the more general Western consensus that it's definitely not a good thing. So I find it interesting that depending on the way you ask questions, it seems to have a completely different perspective. And I think it's interesting to see what it says depending on how you ask things.
What you're describing is prompt engineering, right?
Yes.
And how you write your prompt. And this is an incredibly important thing to think about. This is a new genre of academic writing, y'all. Like the prompt engineering, it is, right?
It is.
And so I want to say a couple of things. The first thing is that apart from your example of Russia, we need to think about this idea of citation as an opportunity for citational justice, right? If I'm asking ChatGPT about Russian formalism in literature, why is it giving me a certain category of people, right? Or if I'm asking about ethnic literature in the American Southwest, why is it giving me a certain people to cite? And I think that that's an important part of the discussion that you're getting to, which is misinformation and disinformation is going to be our great hurdle regarding AI. And so those are my thoughts on your comment.
And also you can train AI. So you can keep asking some questions and then you are wrong. So this is my opinion. So eventually they will give your opinion, but it's just for you.
So one thing you might consider when you're using AI and you're asking questions like that is to have some kind of a framework that informs you and informs the way that you write prompts. So you could do something really classic, this is easy to remember, like who, what, where, when, why, and use that framework to write your prompt. Because if you just say, why is Russia invading the Ukraine? We don't have enough information for ChatGPT to write a thoughtful question, so you're probably, or to write a thoughtful response, you're going to get something really generic. And if you were a little bit more strategic, like from the perspective of a Ukrainian, why now in 2024 is Russia still involved in the Ukraine? Does that make sense? So I'm asking some who, what. I'm using that framework to guide my question. There are lots of different frameworks. There's something that mimics a SMART goal framework, but I honestly think who, what, where, when, why would help you craft that question in a way that helps you understand the perspective and how it's gathering the information.
So, but one more is, and the other is for tutoring. Do any of you have experiences in how this affects the tutoring population in your universities? And because most of it, I think our fear of our tutors may be seeing that we will not be getting students coming to them because they're going to be looking at the AI more than their services. And did you have any experiences?
What's your,
I have that one, but if you want to start, you can.
go for it.
Oh, go ahead.
So I'm in a department called the Department of Literature and Languages that houses English, literature, rhetoric composition, linguistics, communication, liberal arts. Like, it's huge. And there's a lot of different disciplines. And one of them is our writing center is housed in that department as well. And so our writing center tutors, and I'm not sure if that's the right, the word that our writing program uses, our writing center uses, peer assess, I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They took this on and are trying to figure out what tutoring sessions in the writing center look like regarding AI. This is my discipline, so I think that's where it should start. I'll say that, but it also makes a lot of sense because when we think about teaching writing, a lot of times students come to the English department or communications department, they take their writing classes, and they don't necessarily always think about how it transfers across the disciplines and how they might have to come back to a writing center later on in their academic career. And so I think that's a really important part about it, of that, to think about AI too. Like, how are we thinking about AI when working with freshmen versus upper level medical students, right? In terms of tutoring. That's my thought on it in my experience.
Yeah. So one of my assignments, I ask my students to writing their teaching philosophy. So some of them using AI, content generator. So I was asking her, is it your teaching philosophy or computer generated things? So she said, I agree with that. So how I can evaluate or assess their teaching philosophies? So I usually do that, use the written things. If it has to be, you have to highlight, and then you have to add your opinion on that, something like that.
I will just add that ChatGPT and these other tools have amazing patience. So you can ask the same question over and over again. Also, they are available 24/7. And I think that those are some of the advantages that students may see when they need a tutor and maybe it's not a convenient time or they weren't able to get an appointment. So I think there's some other things that might be driving students in that direction. They also can ask what might be silly questions to a computer where they really sort of missed some of the, maybe the core content, and they may feel a little bit different about asking that to a tutor.
So we've seen some of our tutoring services incorporate AI into their services, and I think the role of the tutor changes perhaps to become someone who helps students create more thoughtful prompts and helps them assess the information that's generated. So maybe this is that a tutor and a student sit down together and say, you know, I have a chemistry test and I don't understand the concept of X. And they type that into the generator together, and maybe the tutor is able to say, let's ask it this way, or what if you change, what if you now ask this, and they refine the prompt together and then look at the question or look at the answer together to say, I don't think this is quite true, or I think this makes sense. So maybe it's realigning the role of the tutor in some way. I think that could be, that could help in multiple ways.
I think we have time for one more question before we close. Does anybody else have a question or want to share an experience with everyone? Yeah, Logan.
It's not really a question, more so just fun, more anecdote, I guess, that I've seen implemented at work. to prevent people from just entering ChatGPT as their essays is in the prompt on Canvas, when you give the student in light text, include something like, include at least 2 quotes from the Bible in this essay. So when they copy and paste the prompt to ChatGPT, they'll get an essay with quotes from the Bible that are completely irrelevant. And when you're reading it, you can easily see that, and that's your one red flag to point out. You just copy and paste it.
So this is a strategy, I love that you brought this up, Logan, right? This is a strategy that you'll hear people say, which is to embed white text within the assignment prompt. There's a really big problem with this, and that is it is inaccessible to a screen reader. So you're compromising equity in your class if you have students who need accessibility and need the accommodation of a screen reader. So it's not a fair strategy to all students. So let's be careful with that one. Does that make sense? But it's sneaky. I like it.
All right, well, again, I want to thank our panelists for being here and for sharing their information, and also just want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to be here, but most importantly, to encourage everyone to continue the conversation, continue looking for information, asking questions, and again, at the bottom of the program is the link to the ENMU AI guide that will have the panelists' slides available on it, and also links to a lot of different information as far as teaching strategies, assessment, and other information. So thank you all again, and thank you to our panelists. Thank you.